Right, so Mark Gurman has given us a big report, and that is, Apple could be adding support for sideloading and third-party app stores within iOS, and so let's delve into it. So yes, in case you weren't aware, the EU has also wanted Apple to give us sideloading and third-party app stores, and with this becoming law in the near future, Apple has no choice but to agree to this, at least within Europe. And so that's why Mark Gurman does tell us that yes, according to his internal sources, Apple does plan to give in. Now this will be a big change for iOS because basically since the conception of iOS, you've had one app store on this and all developers had to put their apps on the official app store. They had no alternative app stores to use and it was one centralized system. And so now with this law, we could see big developers, to avoid Apple's fees, develop their own app stores just for their apps. And well, I'm pretty mixed on this because while people are saying this is a win, there are some negatives here. For example, if big app developers did move out of the App Store and made their own third-party apps, that just increases the chances of naive users downloading malware on their devices. And that would damage the privacy image Apple's had with iOS for years. In fact, in my opinion, that's a great thing about the App Store. You can trust all the apps that are available directly on the App Store because Apple has approved it. But of course, with a third-party app store, it's a little more risky. Also, another big negative is going to be piracy. That's going to massively increase. If it's now very easy to sideload cracked versions of paid apps, that's going to affect developers and is once again potentially damaging to Apple's brand. So yes, I do have my doubts about this. Now I do want to mention that with macOS, which already has sideloading support, Apple does have a verification system to protect users, and so yes, hopefully there are some security measurements in place. Now the next big question I have is, how is Apple going to make money from this? Because yes, let's be honest guys, a partial reason for the centralized system within iOS is because Apple does make quite a lot from the 30% cut, and so if you can now have third-party app stores within iOS, then heck yeah, the big developers, they're gonna screw Apple and they're gonna have their own app stores. And well actually, I could see Apple turning the App Store fee into an iOS fee. So if you want to put your app on the iOS platform outside of the App Store, you're gonna have to pay up. And this might sway some developers to just stay on the App Store. Also for consumers, I can see Apple giving us a huge banner saying, hey, this is very dangerous. Unless you're experienced, don't do this, yada yada yada. So of course that could sway naive consumers to stick to the App Store. So yeah, honestly, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. Other questions I've seen online is, of course, can these side-loaded apps have the same privileges as the App Store apps? Since it would be kind of sketchy if these apps could access everything on your device. Now Gurman says as soon as iOS 17, we should see these changes, and it should go into effect in 2024 for Europe. Of course, I'm sure Apple's not going to implement this in other countries till they're forced to. Now Gurman also said that underlying app frameworks and APIs could also be given to third-party developers, and that means they would get access to deeper core system functions. So for example, NFC on the iPhone's limited to not work with Apple Pay alternatives, but that could be allowed, and also the Find My network could be opened up to other accessory makers like Tile for example. And this actually I'm not against because I think other products and other services having better integration within iOS is great news. So yeah, this actually is completely fine. Now interestingly, the Digital Markets Act, essentially what this all falls under, also wants to open up iMessage, and of course Android has been wanting Apple to adopt RCS to make the experience between Android and iOS users more seamless. However, Gurman says that even after this law coming into place, Apple still's not considering adopting RCS, and so I'm not sure what they're going to do because the law clearly wants that to be the case, and if Apple does not follow this, they could be fined as much as $80 billion, and so yes, I do think eventually Apple's going to have to agree to this. However, I do want to finally say that of course, do remember this is just a rumor right now, it's not confirmed yet, and I guess we'll see what happens in the next few months. Anyways, tell me your thoughts regarding this report in the comments. Anyways, thank you for watching guys, make sure to like and subscribe for the latest Apple news and rumors. Check out the video in the link above on details regarding Apple's VR headsets, and on that note, see ya peeps.